Good morning. I am Girish Hegde, working as a software development manager in Oracle India Private Limited. Today we are going to discuss one of the hot topic, cryptography and network security. We learnt about the security because of war. We don't know when enemy will get attacked, but we should be ready to face that. Same thing is applicable in case of software industry or information technology industry. So what are the things we are going to discuss? What is security? Why do we need security? Who is vulnerable? Common security attacks and countermeasures, cryptography, secure socket layer or SSL, and some hands-on session related to SSL. So what is security? Security is freedom for risk or danger, freedom from doubt, anxiety or fear, or something that gives or assures safety. Why do we need security? So first thing is protect important information or vital information, but that important or confidential information should be accessible who needs it or who is having the privilege. Even though security measures are adopted, those information should be available for who needs it or who is having the privilege or who authorized to access that. For example, trade secrets, medical records, etc. How to protect this one? Provide authentication and access control for resources. Wherever we are storing or transferring the information, we have to provide the authentication. Who is having the required privileges or get authenticated, only those can access the information. Using Kerberos or radius authentication methods, we can adopt this method. Guarantee availability of resource. As I mentioned before, even though we adopt the security, the information or the resource should be available who needs it. The service provider should guarantee that resources are available for the authorized person. Who is vulnerable? Financial institutions, banks, internet service providers, pharmaceutical companies, government and defense agencies, contractors to various government agencies, multinational corporations. In general, anyone who connected to the internet or the network, then they are vulnerable or they are in the risk. What are the common security attacks? Finding a way into the network. The attacker or the hackers, they will find some way to get into the network. So how to protect? We can protect using the firewalls. Exploiting the software bugs or buffer overflows. How to protect? Intrusion detection system. Denial of service or the DOS attacks. What is the countermeasures? Ingress filtering or the IDS. We'll see the details later. What is this DOS attack and details about the firewalls, etc. Next is TCP hijacking. Using IP security, we can protect this TCP hijacking. Packet sniffing using encryption mechanisms like SSH, SSL, HTTPS protocol. We can avoid or protect from packet sniffing. And some social problems. By educating the peoples, we can resolve these type of problems. So we'll see what is these firewalls. Usually firewall in a building or wall is built around the buildings to protect from the fire. Similarly, in case of network, it is a barrier between the network and outside world, or barrier between our system and the outside world. These firewalls imposes an access control policy between networks. We will see these things in detail, which blocks and allows network traffic. Firewalls will block unauthorized access but allows the authorized thing. Prevents criminals accessing networks so organizations and customers can conduct a business. Provides single choke point for auditing. Okay, what are the different types of firewalls available? First is network level firewall or packet filtering. Second one is application level firewall or proxy gateways. We'll see what is these network level firewalls. These network level firewalls, also known as packet filters, operate at the network layer. Whoever knows about basics of network layers or OSI model, so this network layer is one of the layer out of 7 layer in OSI model. So this network level firewall works at the network layer. So in the network, what will happen is everything will be divided as a packets, and then it will transport to the lower level like a IP layer or data link layer. Then finally it will go to the physical layer or the physical media. So this network level firewall works at the network layer and it analyzes the packets in IP header. Each packet having the header, then actual data. So these firewalls analyze the header of that packet information. After analyzing the header information, that is nothing but IP address or the port, it will allow or block that traffic. That means whenever you set up a firewall at the network level, first is check for the IP address or the port from where I am getting the message or where I am sending the message. So if in the configuration that IP address or range of that IP address or port or range of that port is specified to allow, then it will allow the traffic, otherwise it will block. We'll see the example later. What are the advantages? So it is very fast and scalable. It is almost free or the cheap. Disadvantage, it is not having any idea about the application. It is working at the network level, which allows direct connection to end server, vulnerable to spoofing. As I mentioned before, this type of firewall, network level firewall, this is the OSI layer, 7 layer. So network level firewall or packet filters working at the network layer. This is one of the classic example. Here I am trying to access the information or transfer the file using FTP. So as we can see here, it is mentioned that port greater than 1023 is open. That means if message or the traffic comes from the port which is having the port number greater than 1023, this firewall will allow the traffic, otherwise it will block. In this case, the port number is 4841 and return traffic it is 414842. So this firewall will allow the traffic. So how to overcome the disadvantage of the network level firewall? That is, it is not having any idea of the application, or it will allow direct connection. To overcome that problem or the disadvantages, we have to go for an application level gateway. So it works at the top level or the top layer of the OSI model, that is application layer. So these type of firewalls, they will examine the context of communication. Instead of IP address and port, it will check for the communication context. This requires two connections, one between client and proxy, one between proxy and the server. So there is no direct connection between the client and server. It has to go through the proxy server. It can be used as a NAT, that is network address translator. What are the advantages? No traffic allowed directly between client and server, but this is possible in case of network level firewall. It makes decision based on the communication context. Instead of IP address and port, application level gateways or the firewalls taking the decision based on the context of communication. What are the disadvantages? Not scalable, don't support every type of connection. See, this is the topmost layer, application layer in the OSI model. So this firewall works at the application level. So as I mentioned in my earlier slide, there is no direct connection between client and server. It has to go through the firewall or the proxy. So this is the client, this is server, and this is proxy gateway or application proxy. So client request goes to proxy server will redirect that to server, and server will send back the information to proxy, and proxy will redirect once again to client. So there is no direct connection between client and server. So this is another classic example. In this example we can see two firewalls. One is interior firewall, another one is exterior firewall. That is, interior firewall is used with intranet and exterior firewall used with internet. DMZ is nothing but demilitarized zone, that is the secure zone. So interior firewall requires, for example, within the organization, some of the information should be accessible only for specific group or specified people. It is not a public. Then we have to set a interior firewall. If I have to, or my system is connected to internet, that's outside world, then we have to use a exterior firewall. So these are all some common firewall vendors: Checkpoint, Cisco, Symantec, Nortel, SonicWall, and so many other vendors also there. Here I have mentioned only few. So what are the best practices we have to use? Place HTTP server or the unsecured servers behind the firewalls. Always we have to set the exterior firewalls when we have connected to internet. Always we have to set interior firewall rules, only allow access from the servers in DMZ, that is for the intranet. It is better to set the proxy servers for the outgoing traffic. Make sure that normal HTTP server or unsecured server should not contain any sensitive information. Whenever some of the traffics are not required, we have to disallow. Always we have to allow lowest privileges to the model. For example, give read-only privileges to the files or the modules. Always it is better to make sure that modules or the programs are tested for buffer overflows. Always we have to set the policy that password should be strong password, like minimum 8 characters, combination of characters, digits, special characters. Also we have to set the policy as frequently or periodically we have to change the passwords. Always it is better to remove the unused service from the host. Some of the services, if not required, then better to remove that. Disable the R command, that is remote login, RSH, those kind of commands. We should not give root privileges to everyone. Only limited people we have to give a root privileges. For more information, you can go through this web page. Okay. In the previous slides, we saw about different types of attacks. One is denial of service, that is DOS attack. See, one of the principle behind the security, even though you apply all the security measures, the resource or the information should be available for authorized person or who needs it. But this denial of service means the required service, even though person is authorized or having the required privileges, they are not able to get the required service. That is called as a denial of service. That is, service is unusable, usually by overloading the server or network. How it will happen? First thing is DOS by flooding. Here attacker or the hackers simply they will push the packets or the messages over the network. Always server will be busy, then required service is not available. Next is DOS by forging, that is denial of service by forging. As you know, in the internet or the network or the IT computer, always messages has to be, or the information or the packet has to be routed from client to the server over the network. When this routing itself is corrupted or the forged, then required service is not available. Next problem is TCP attacks. So how this TCP IP will work? TCP is nothing but transport control protocol. IP is nothing but internet protocol. So in case of TCP IP, always it works or it has source address and the destination address. So in case of TCP attacks, what will happen if destination address is changed or destination address got corrupted? Always the packet or the message routed to wrong destination. Similarly, in case of source address, if source address got changed or the corrupted, destination always thinking about, okay, I am getting the message or the package from the trusted source. but here source itself is changed or the corrupted. So this type of attacks are called TCP attacks. So how to protect this one or prevent this one is using better authentication mechanisms using Kerberos or the radius, etc. See, in case of TCP attacks, what will happen is always TCP IP, it is having the sequence numbers, port details and associated state. Each connection is having associated state. Whenever hacker or the attacker is able to get this information like sequence number is just a periodically incremented a standard way, then easily they can get the sequence numbers. Port number, anyways, some of the services like HTTP, port AC, the public or standard port. Everybody knows that HTTP uses port number 80. Nothing great in that. Okay. At the same time, if hacker is able to learn about associated state, then definitely the connection can be hijacked. So some of the social problems here. Yeah, this is one of the classic example. Someone calls you in the middle of the night, have you been calling Egypt for last 6 hours? Obviously you will tell no. Well, we have a call that's actually active right now. It is on your calling card and it is to Egypt, and as a matter of fact you have got about $2,000 worth of charges on your card and read off your AT&T card number and PIN, and then I will get rid of the charge for you. Sometimes what will happen is unknowingly we will disclose our card number as well as PIN number. Once you disclose this type of details to unknown person, then you are in trouble. Similarly, nowadays we can hear that people will send you the message or call you saying that you won the lottery of US 1000 US dollar 10,000 or maybe some pound. Then usually everybody will attracted because of dollar or pounds. What they will tell is, as a service charge you have to credit rupees 10,000 to following account. People think that it is true, then they will credit whatever the rupees or money they mentioned. Then what will happen is, it is a false call and we have been cheated. No lottery, nothing. Simply we have credited that much money to unknown account. So these type of problems we should be prevent or protect by creating the awareness. Okay, so we'll take some break here and we'll continue shortly.